there's fire on the mountain before you start looking at, how to quench the fire. You have to prepare ahead of time. So, in this period and these circumstances, because we haven't planned properly, I'm afraid to say that. But it's a learning curve.
Yeah, utmost. That's why I was so careful to even just blame it on COVID, because this club versus country row has been happening forever, even before the pandemic. We've seen it, and it all boils down to the level of, let me use local slang, see finish. It's see finish, because, for instance, I'm saying pandemic or not, Cameroon hasn't done so much to pump up interest for the AFCON. When you are hosting a major competition, it means, for instance, let's not talk about Africans who want to go to Cameroon. Let's talk about people from America. Let's talk about people from Asia. Let's talk about people from Europe. You should do more to let people know that your country is where they can visit. It's a major competition. And I haven't seen that sort of responsibility from Cameroon. That must see finish on his own. So clubs will be like, okay, let's even go and find out this country where our players are going to. Because it goes beyond you just saying that they're going to play for their fatherland. Yeah. Most of these clubs are responsible for the well-being of the players. So Africa needs to do more to make sure that ours is a place where if you come, there's a level of respect, comfort, professionalism, and because it's the AFCON, it is what it is. For instance, I've been doing my research about Cameroon because I'm thinking whether I can still go after the group stage. Some schools have been shut for over 3 months, bruv. Why? What's your level of medical care? Infrastructure. Let's forget the little things we see here and there as regards to little propaganda because you want to host a competition. People have complained about hospitality also. I was in Cameroon in 2016, I think 2017 also. Internet is terrible.
Yeah, terrible. I had so.
I couldn't send a 2-minute visual to Lagos to play on Channels TV. I used to wait till 2 a.m. when the bandwidth is a bit good and people are sleeping before I can send a 2-minute video.
Okay, if I can ask you a question, because we can talk about this, from now till tomorrow. What can we do? How can we get it right? Because this will happen again. In another 2 years, there's going to be another competition. And I know what it takes. Football clubs, when you look at it, you have to look at different things from different perspectives. They spend a lot of money on these footballers. Insurance, they pay their wages. They do a whole lot of things on them. I'm an advocate of African football because I'm African. I want African football to prosper and go beyond, I want it to go very, very far and go and proceed to a high level of expectation. But the fact of the matter is, who are the stakeholders that needs to be held responsible? How do we forge ahead from here? Because we can start talking about it now and having a conversation.
We've been talking about it, bro. But the point is there must be a will to change these things. And I'm not saying the will there. First, there must be a change in mindset. There is this fire brigade approach to almost everything we do. Particularly in West Africa. There's this disrespect for structures and systems. The fact that it is done, did we not do it? Did we not eventually do it? Does it matter how we did it? We did it now. Are we not Nigerians? Won't we see it? So that mindset needs to change. Why is North Africa doing so well? North Africa started investing in their people, and right after the people, they moved into infrastructure. So here people say North Africa is like Europe. Maybe take away Libya. You can call on any North African country tomorrow and say, host the AFCON, and they are ready, bro. Is it Egypt? Is it Tunisia? Is it Algeria? Is it Morocco? They have set up systems and structures. And you can tell now that even with not just with football, with sport, you can tell that they are using it to build a country. They are using it to improve human capacity, which is what is missing in the West. For instance, in West Africa, we have the people. But the people, the most that we disregard is the same people that's supposed to be our investment. So when I say there needs to be a change in mindset, leadership and followership must come together and say, look, for instance, what for instance, what is Cameroon trying to do with this AFCON? Don't forget that there's been back and forth that there was a time they didn't even want them to host it. We call that one the politics inside out. Now they've given them the nod to host it. Okay, Garua, for instance, where the Super Eagles will be, go even check hospitality in that region. That's what I'm talking about. If it's not Yaoundé or Douala, problem. And it's the same issue I have too with Nigeria. If it is not Lagos, Abuja, maybe Port Harcourt. Every graduate in the country.
Maybe Ibadan.
Well, because of its proximity to Lagos. So still call down. Don't put Ibadan, no, don't put Ogun, don't put Oyo. Every graduate looks forward to working in 3 cities in Nigeria. So how will the country develop? That's the problem. You and I were in the UK. I can jump up tomorrow now and go to Birmingham. If I don't like it in Birmingham, I can get a job in Sheffield. Oh, I've worked too much in Sheffield, I can go to Manchester. Oh, Manchester don't tire me. I pick my load, I go to Hull, I can go to Derby, I can go to Bristol. You see, when development creeps into different phases of life, it will rub off. And why I said there needs to be a change of mindset, Africa needs to have a particular clout. We need people who are service-oriented, who are too product-oriented. What is in it for me? And that's why corruption is rife. Oh, sorry, carry on. That's why I'm happy that Samuel Eto'o now is the FA president in Cameroon. We have Kalisha Bwala in Zambia. We need more of those persons who have seen how structures and systems work and they command presence, and to an extent they have their own money.
Now, so, can I sorry to quote you short. Can I ask you a question? Why don't we bring in our own former footballers to do these things? We have a couple, in Nigeria. Why is it that, there's always a narrative that it's only politicians that come in? Why can't we, even if, politicians want to do this job, why can't they bring in these guys and let them do the job and help them and, make things happen the proper way?
With the environment empower them, they will come to work with government workers. That's what I'm saying. We need to invest in people. There must be a reorientation. Our mindset must change. Because if you bring Mikel Obi to come and be NFF president, it will frustrate. Who will he be working with? The ministry people? You get what I'm saying? Look, bruv, we can't. Look, even scripture says, can two work together unless they agree? We must think in the same, we must be on that same level so that when you talk, I understand. I talk, you understand. We are all moving, we are parity. We are operating with a unity of purpose. The gap is too wide in terms of what people want and how to chase it and how to achieve it. The gap is too much. For instance, take football. 90%, before it was 9%, 95, 98% of football in Nigeria is not government owned. So what do you expect? Your football will be a reflection of the country.
Yeah, our football has really gone down over the years. Back in the day, in the 80s, early 90s, people used to be packed to stadiums. They want to watch the games.
And I've been explaining that for a long time, because when I was doing my dissertation, I jumped into the history of football in Nigeria. Do you know why it was like that in the 80s? There was no football competitions worldwide in terms of media coverage. So the people owned their football.
We haven't evolved with time, with technology.
We didn't move with the times. Now you're talking. So when European football started coming, if I even check when we were growing up back then, you remember it was Serie A. After Serie A, Bundesliga. The English Premier League is just
fighting for a piece of the market. Yeah.
Good. So when everybody now started seeing that there's business in this thing, there's market. Particularly with European clubs, knowing that majority of the ownership is on the people, they now started to build a market and business out of the people. Take MFM, for instance, owned by the church. How much do they make from sales of jersey? How many people come to the stadium? And a church get them all. The pastor can stand on the pulpit and say, God will bless you every time you go to watch MFM. But there are no systems in place to guide that sort of thing. Don't you were in England here with me now. When you go to the stadium, don't you see that the people own the football? That was what it was like during the days of stationary stores, Abiola Babes, Ranchers Bees. The people owned the football. But when TV started evolving, becoming a worldwide business, getting into media, Nigeria leaned back.
The thing is, there's a conflict. There's usually a conflict of interest because the federal government interacts with, with the football authorities. I think they go to them for money, for them to provide certain things for them. So they're not totally, They're not totally on their own. So they mix and match.
I tell you this, aside from those private-owned clubs like the Abiola Babes, and maybe Julius Berger back in the days, even those clubs that were state-owned clubs, like the Bendel Insurance, Rangers, after when changed to we were shooting stars. When people were scared to even put their monies into it because they know that there's no accountability. You see, it's deep. So sometimes when people talk, in the 80s, there was no football on TV. So people must go to the stadium to watch.
But there are different ways you do it. There's some matches in the UK they don't show on TV. In the UK, the matches are played at 3, but there's a strategy behind it.
Yeah, so that people go to the stadium. It is the night games that we see on TV. And the stadiums are still packed. Yes. Because they plan. And check the Spanish La Liga, because of the evolution of the media, they will never put an El Clasico on the day that you have a Super Sunday or a big match in the EPL. Yeah. It's strategic. We don't know all of this. So you see, the world the world moved while we're still there talking and praying all day instead of us to be practical with things, So, brother, I wanted us to just make this an AFCON team, so...
Yeah, I mean, we've got the capacity, we've got the capability, we've got resources, human resources. What the people in charge need to do, they need to bring in other people, other parties to come and help them out. Football is a big business. There's a lot of money to be made in football, but before you can make money properly, you have to invest your resources. You have to make sure you're doing the right things. You have to, grassroots football. I know you're an advocate of grassroots, but even look at the grassroots. I played Principal's Cup when I was in secondary school. I played Pepsi Football Academy, but all those things, are they still there? I don't think they're there anymore.
They are.
So,
are
they functioning? Yeah.
These things won't. Yeah, the Principal's Cup. This current minister is trying all his best to bring it back and everything. That's what I told you, that we don't think long term, and that's because there are no structures and systems. There are no policies to guide whatever. Nigeria is what is in it for me now.
Short time. The interesting fact? Nigeria is still, if not the best, one of the best in Africa, and a lot of other African countries look up to Nigeria. So you can imagine the states at which African football is. I'll tell you one thing. That right now, from what I gather, I hope my facts are, 100%, but they may not be. But I understand CAF don't even, there's no, how can I put this, in a good way? I understand that to coach ex-footballers, former footballers, there's nothing in place for that. Do you know how they do UEFA A, UEFA B here in the UK? In Europe, it's not even in existence in Africa. But why would you? And you have all this money coming in from FIFA, where you get millions and millions of dollars on a regular basis, and you can't even organize a simple, even if there's training course for ex-footballers to get trained, to get qualifications, to be able to be coaches. It's not in place. So what exactly is that? We can't always blame. Now, everybody blames a lot of things on COVID, right? But before COVID came to
these problems were perspective,
this problem, and one day COVID will go.
Bro, that's what I said. We are too product oriented. We we're not selfless. We don't think service. We don't think country. That's the problem. Why didn't the European Super League work? Even when the owners of football thought that they can actually boss people around, we know that money was in the center, but the voice of the people prevailed because they thought that they owned the game, So, but Nigeria is not that kind of place where people, just, okay, we just want to, what is in it for me? For instance, I thought about using citizen journalism to push advocacy to help people. That was why I started loving the grassroots. Because I said, if all of us keep talking about Mikel Obi or Johnny Allo, who talks about that guy?
Who's coming in next?
Coming up, and when I just started, people thought I was insane, I was stupid, until when I kept up. And to talk about what is not known requires a lot of research. You have to be engaging, you have to be interesting. But I loved doing it. I enjoyed doing it. And I started seeing it. And it helped me ease into it with the channel's Kids Cup.
Mm.
No, these people, this grassroots is boring, Joe. What do they want to go and talk? The workout stories can come out of there, So we have to be people-centered. We have to think development. We need to think long-term. That's what helped the Principal's Cup back in the day. When you sit back and realize that the people, players such as Stephen Keshi were found from the schools.
I played Principal's Cup for Christ Badekiti. I remember.
Basically, all of us.
In fact, so
Principal's Cup.
Yeah, in Adwekiti, I played different, with different what you call it, Unity Adwekiti. We went to an association Akure. We played in Ikere. Went all around. So
it was fun. It was bragging rights there. Yeah. And it worked because there was that's what I'm saying about structure and systems. People knew that from the Principal's Cup, they could get into a bigger window of exposure and opportunities until people started hijacking it for selfish purposes. And it gave the country stars, Daniel Amokachi, Henry Nwosu, Dosu Joseph. I mentioned the late Stephen Keshi. A lot of players came out of the Principal's Cup.
Another area where I think we're lacking in Africa, especially in Nigeria as well, is the development of players. The mentality of, when you make money, what you do with money, education, not just going to school, but getting aware, knowing, kind of people you have around you, because football will end one day. You see, all these footballers, they go abroad, they make millions of euros or pounds, but even in the UK, I'll give you a statistic. Even in the UK, 75% of footballers that 5 years after they retire, 75% of them go broke. That's in the UK. So when you now look at Africa and you look at countries like Nigeria, that means, we have a lot of work to do. So our players need to understand so many things, in terms of awareness, in terms of knowing what to do, in terms of when you're making the money, what do you do? How do you invest in yourself so that you can make more money eventually when you finish your football? So these are all the things that are very, very important. But a lot of footballers are just used to just taking, they don't know how to invest. So if we start helping them, or they start helping themselves one way or the other, because they can invest back into Nigerian football as well.